name is Allie Williams. I'm the Executive Director of the Corporate Responsibility Association. We have a couple of rapid fire sessions, and then we're going to do some issue table kind of fun stuff. The next session is entitled Everything Old is New Again. We're reimagining philanthropy at age 66. Carolyn Roan, Vice President of Corporate Responsibility at Pfizer, is with us today, and she'll discuss the company's partnership with some of the world's most productive philanthropic efforts in its journey to recognition as an incubator of social entrepreneurship. Please help me welcome Carolyn Roan.
Well, thank you very much. This is my first time at the Commit Forum, and I know you're anxious to get to your break. So if you hang with me a few more minutes, you'll get there. So to get our conversation going, I wanted to start with a trivia question. Now, I'm going to test your knowledge of presidential history. Who knows who was president? It's actually 166 years ago, not 66 years ago. 166 years ago. Who was president? Any takers? Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of hints. His picture is right here. He was known as Old Rough and Ready, and he was the 12th president of the United States. And I'm sure if you Google it right now. Close. Zachary Taylor. Old Rough and Ready. And when Old Rough and Ready was in the White House, Pfizer was born 166 years ago. Now, we actually grew up just across the river in Williamsburg. And this is literally a depiction of the Pfizer facility in the early days. And this was before Williamsburg was cool, and as I like to say, when farm to table literally meant a farmer brought food to your table. And if you fast forward to today, we're on the corner of 42nd and 2nd in Manhattan. We're one of the world's largest biopharmaceutical companies. And our social and business purpose are quite intertwined because we discover, develop, and bring to market medicines that help people live longer and healthier lives. And I thought it would be interesting today to talk a little bit about how we've learned over time from our own legacy the nexus of business and social responsibility for Pfizer. Now, to get us going, I wanted to talk about businesses, and I was preparing for this talk. I didn't realize it, but more than 300 businesses are born every minute, every day. Probably makes sense to a lot of you here. Some of you are new companies that haven't been around as long as Pfizer. And you know what? The good news is a lot of them are quite resilient. A half of them will exist at age 5. You move on to age 15 and we're doing pretty good. The teen years get a little dicey though. We're down to a quarter. But if you fast forward between 15 and 50, you're talking about a lot less folks able to celebrate their 50th birthday. Now, I know the struggles that I have had between 15 and not quite 50. But when you get to 100, where Pfizer is, let alone 166, you're really talking about needles in a haystack. It's very difficult to keep a company in business that long. So, we have boiled it down to a pretty simple equation for Pfizer. Now, a lot of you are experts in business. You study business resiliency. That's what we heard about in the previous session around reporting. How do you understand the drivers that are material to a business? Well, for purposes of today, I want to talk about a simple equation, or a scale, balancing two quite competing and distinct factors. The first is the vision and ability to invest a generation ahead with the urgency, and I didn't coordinate with Kai earlier, to move quickly and seize on new ideas. There's a yin and a yang here. These are distinctly competing forces. If you keep the scale in balance, we think you're going to be in it for the long run. If you invest in either side too much and you start to wobble, you're likely going to be punching your ticket to the island of lost companies. So, for Pfizer, let's start with generation to generation investment. Now for us, that's a quite comfortable space because believe it or not, it takes more than a generation for an aha moment in the lab to get translated into standard medical practice. So the core engine of our business has to be used to long-term investment, complex partnerships over generations, literally, to bring a new medicine to market. Now that actually mirrors our social investment strategy. And we've stopped using the word philanthropy. I think it's reflective of history and not of the forward-looking way that we can integrate the social with our business. And I want to give you a couple of examples of how we've incorporated the long term in what we do in our social investment strategy. The first example is the International Trachoma Initiative. Now, this program was designed and developed back in 1998, and it was done to respond to the call of the World Health Organization to eliminate a blinding disease called trachoma. Fortunately, we in the United States no longer suffer from it, but when immigrants came into Ellis Island, you might see pictures where they would flip the eyelid up to see if they actually were carriers of trachoma. At the time that this was developed, it was a comprehensive public health strategy, and candidly, companies didn't work that way back then. It includes some simple components that have made it quite effective. The first is simple surgery. This surgery is for the advanced cases. The eyelid actually turns in. And this surgery can be done anywhere, literally under a tree, by healthcare workers. The second component is antibiotics, and that's where Pfizer comes in. The other components include access to hygiene, and this is critically important. In this case, latrines. And of course, clean water. Many of you know the importance of clean water in preventing the spread of disease. So the tenets of this program actually mirror what you saw in our lab, right? We've set a long-term goal and a vision. We work collaboratively. We've kept our commitments to this program. And in this case, all of us, more than 30 partners and more than 20 governments, have stayed committed with our eyes on the prize. And that prize is to eliminate a disease by the year 2020. And not that many diseases have been eliminated in the world. And we're well on our way to achieving that. Now, for a lot of you out there who are somewhat skeptical of large corporations, most of you will say, well, that's probably a signature initiative. Michael Porter talks about signature initiatives. Every company has one. They go out and they talk about it. And that's true. The ITI has become a signature initiative, and it's a major commitment by the company. But point of fact, it's more of a rule than an exception to how we take on global health challenges. And I want to run through a couple of other examples. The Global Health Fellows Program. It's in year 12, 350,000 hours of volunteer service on the front lines of disease. Then you've got the Gavi Partnership, a new model, not a donation base, that is 6 years old now, and Pfizer's commitment there is to provide affordable pneumococcal vaccine to more than 250 million children, actually, living in the developing world. And last, but certainly not least, is RX Pathways. Now, this program was designed more than 25 years ago here in the United States to address the affordability issues that patients face with purchasing their pharmaceutical products. It's still here today, and we still help more than 350,000 patients each year get access to medicines. Now, I think you begin to see it. We've made big commitments in all of these. These are long-term games. In order to make successful inroads into some of the intractable health issues that we face globally, you have to make a long-term commitment. Now, this brings us to the other side. So how do we deal with the fact that a lot of people think Pfizer, old company, not doing that much innovative work, when it's really the engine of our business, which is scientific innovation? Now, we've had to rethink how we do our science because we know that that progression of science is happening outside of our labs. We've had to be able to identify through partners new opportunities, seize on those quickly, and invest heavily when we think they have great value to bring to patients. We've also had to do that on our philanthropic side or with our social investments. And in that spirit, in 2013, we launched a new grants program that's designed to capture those ideas, to invest in them, and to bring that pilot to bear on programs that we think have great benefit for the patients that are living at the bottom of the pyramid. I want to talk about two of the levers that we have sort of drawn our interest and our investment with this particular grants program. The first one is diagnostics, and I think all of you understand that if you aren't diagnosed, you can't receive treatments. So Pfizer has invested in a startup in India that actually has created a portable breast cancer screening device. And this is absolutely critical because, believe it or not, 60% of cases of cancer in the future will be in developing countries. And those countries don't have the same capabilities from a diagnostic perspective that we do here in the United States. So a portable device like this can be so meaningful to a woman who is very far from a major national referral hospital. That's just one example. Now, the second, and you may wonder why I'm showing you this picture as I start out, is around financing. And financing is certainly a topic of conversation here in the United States today about healthcare, because you do need money to pay for quality healthcare. Now, what does this picture with two women and mobile phones have to do with that? Well, it shows you that we're reimagining platforms for Pfizer. We're actually investing in a mobile money platform that has a health wallet. And that wallet allows women to put deposits in that can remain safe and secure. So she can purchase health, not only for herself, but for her family. She can also save that money for use in emergency situations, because we know that one catastrophic health event can really change the life of many families, and particularly women, who are the breadwinners. Now, we think the power of this pilot is pretty amazing, because all of you know that about 6 out of 7 people will have access to mobile phones in the coming years. So if this actually works and we reach the 100,000 women that we're targeting, it has great potential. Now, I hope you begin to see a little bit of a theme here on the new side of the equation. How do we respond to the new ideas? How does Pfizer be a player in that space? We want catalytic partnerships. We want them to be fast. We want to support entrepreneurs. We really want to galvanize progress at a fundamental level. If we're able to invest in a pilot, get some evidence, then we can go out and hopefully get other funders to come to the table and take those interventions to scale so that the poorest of the poor have access to quality health care. Now, I promised you weren't too far from your break. This brings us back to where we started. We began with Pfizer's history, longevity, and legacy here in New York. And fast forward, we talked about urgency, the need to be able to not only invest a generation ahead, but respond to the immediate opportunities ahead of us. We walk a tightrope every day. We seek to balance this scale, not only in our scientific innovation, but in our social investment strategy. And you may ask, so what's the big deal? What's the big takeaway? Well, for all of the colleagues at Pfizer, the big takeaway is this little girl, and candidly, all of you. Because if we do our job right, we can help not just millions, but billions of people achieve better health care today and in the future. Thank you very much.